Shout out to the chat. I'm going to say something right now, and it's going to be probably not even shocking to a lot of y'all, but maybe it is shocking to a lot of y'all. When it comes to something like depression and things like that of the sort, I'm just telling y'all, and I've gotten in trouble for this. You're being pimped.
Okay, so we lost Amaram.
Bring him back. Bring him back.
What the hell happened?
Oh, bring him back.
I'm calling you out. I'm so sick of these people. You know,
Bring him back.
I can't believe you did this to me, bro.
Check this out. Check this out. When it comes to the medical world, I'm going to have to write down some of this stuff. For example, obesity. Obesity is ruled as a disease, right? So is alcoholism. You want to know why we rule a lot of things as disease? Because anything in medicine that we can classify.
Your microphone is going in and out, Amarim. Is it me or him?
No, it is going down a little bit. It's going down.
Your microphone is going in and out.
What about now?
It's still down a little bit.
Still a little bit down. Let me wait, 1 second. Let me bring it up. Try now.
Now?
Yeah, we can.
Good now?
Perfect.
So here's the deal. And this is just the truth. Anything I mentioned earlier, alcoholism is classified as a disease, obesity is classified as a disease, mental illness is classified as a disease, depression is classified as a disease. In medicine, anything that we can get through legislation and pass it as classified as a disease, we can treat it medicinally. The only reason why we can treat it medicinally is because it's going to bring a whole bunch of money to us. Okay, now let me tell you this. I get that some people might have some type of things that may have happened to them, like what we call a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. If that part of your brain is affected, it deals with a certain type of behavior. That part is going to play out a lot. Some people, if a part of their brain got injured that deals with anger, they display that no matter how they talk, you're going to see anger come out. If the part of their brain has to deal with jesting or joking around, no matter what they say to you, it's going to come out that way. Now, check this out. Think about something. All of us had this happen. Well, some people may have not. If you experience anything in your life that was completely traumatic as a kid or even as an adult, I mean, it's there. If I told you right now to think on it and you dwelt on it and you just kept on just letting it go through your mind, why does your body respond as if it's happening to you right now? You follow me? Why is your body responding to it as if it's happening right now, even though it could be something that happened years ago? So what I'm saying that for is that depression works the same exact type way. The more you keep on dwelling on it and thinking on it, your body's going to respond as if it's happening to you, right? Now, some of y'all might not agree with this. It does not matter. We see this stuff all the time. I'm telling you, it's nothing but a huge money bag grab for us in medicine. Most of the depression that people suffer from that come through the hospital is self-brought on. And the issue that a lot of them have with this is that most people do not want to confront it. They do not want to deal with what's actually causing it. What you would rather do is have us give you something that's going to mask the issue. So I can give you some type of medication or anything like that's going to actually cause your body to release dopamine or serotonin. And because it makes you feel good, you start thinking that you are good. But if you feel and think that you are good, why do you have to keep on taking it for almost the rest of your life? You never get off of it. It's a reason why.
But can you answer the Black Dawn question? And I got you, Chris. The Black Dawn question. You are a doctor. Do you believe in bipolar? Like, do you think that's the choice? Or do you think that they're actually going through something? Like a person that is bipolar disorder?
No, okay. So when it comes to bipolar, what we find a lot of times is that people who are bipolar, a lot of them try to switch something on, switch something off again because they don't want to deal with the thing that's actually causing them a certain type of trauma. That's how it is. It's a turn off, turn on switch.
But is it a choice?
Huh?
Is it a choice or the brain does it by itself?
No, they choose to do that because here's the thing. What you will find is this. Listen, I'm gonna tell you. Again, when we peel back the layers to a lot of things that happen to them. Let me give you an example. Let's just say if a person was messed around with at a young age or something traumatic, what ends up happening, they form a defense mechanism because they don't want to deal with the trauma. So that defense mechanism can sometimes be, okay, I'm going to cover up this child assault with acting this way so I don't have to think about it, I don't have to dwell on it. So they can switch it on and switch it off. And here's the deal. Why is it that if they're confronted with any type of real type of danger, all of a sudden the bipolarism go away? If they get
survival instincts. Danger, that's what it's called, survival instincts. Yeah, huh? When your survival instincts. That's
so here's the deal. Check this out. And then this is another thing. Whenever you have something like depression, here's the deal. We like to deal with things that make us happy. We like to deal with things that bring us joy. We like those things. But when it comes to even like a death of a loved one so close to us, a lot of us don't want to face that. We don't want to let that get to us. Why is that? Why we try to run from the things that we actually were built to deal with? What medication did our ancestors have? What medication did any of our forefathers?
Medication. What are you talking about?
My point is, what medication did they have for depression? What medication did they have?
Well, we classify things as depression.
How did they deal with what we call depression? How did they deal with it,
sir?
Well, we classify depression at that point in time as well. You can't talk about point and say Were you classifying depression at that point in time?
we hear diagnosis
Were you
back
classifying depression at that point in time as well?
Yeah.
That time that you're talking about, were they classifying depression at that time as well? Were they identifying what depression was at that time as well? When you were
Was
doing
there an
this
actual
time?
medical diagnosis put in any DSM books anywhere? Was that an actual
Come on,
thing?
sir.
Like,
Think about what you're saying. So so check this out. Think about what y'all saying right now.
no. I wouldn't yes or no. We're not dancing around.
He's
this.
answering
Was
it.
there
Let him
actual-
answer it.
wait, let me clarify. Was there an actual diagnosis back then in the times that you were talking about for mental depression?
That's like you asking me.
Wait.
That's like you asking me if there's a such thing as diverticulosis back then in the slave days. How? Yes, but they couldn't.
No, because you brought it up.
Did I not do this?
You do know that there's a diagnosis for gender dysphoria, right?
That's not the point.
Yeah,
We're
but
not talking about that. Now we're not talking about that.
Do you get the argument that we're making?
No, let's take it that face value. Let's take it that face value.
There's a diagnosis for gender dysphoria.
Yes. And
Just because there's a diagnosis for it does not mean that we can justify the logic behind it. That does not make
That's
sense.
not the point.
I got one
I
got one question.
Make the argument we're making. Stay on the argument we made.
You're trying
I got one
to
question.
disprove what it is that he's saying by then saying, well, technically there was no diagnosis for it in order for us to argue against it. That's a disingenuous argument.
No, additional argument would have been the first one. Hey guys, welcome to Little Black But Another One. Listen, we're gonna give you guys a nice little late night conversation. If you're up, you're up. If you're not, you're not. You know what I mean? You might catch the replay. But I thought, you know what, suggested by Jay to talk about this subject because I had a live with Faddy. Shout out to Faddy. He's putting on some great shows actually. You know, he's changing his content now, so he's trying to have more real general conversations, and it's quite inspiring to have different viewpoints on there. And the conversation was about euthanasia originally, but then it switched to the choice. Is depression a choice? Is mental health of depression a choice? And the conversation got quite spicy. There were two different sides, some saying yes, some saying no, and that is always a means for a very heated conversation, but also one where it also brings out different points. So we're going to discuss it, myself and Jay, and if you have any points yourself, if you wanted to contribute, I will put a link in the chat so you can join us in the conversation as well. But I just thought it would be a great conversation to have because I was a little bit frustrated at the time when I was on the panel because I didn't get to speak as much, but I felt like there were parts where being disingenuous, right? So we're going to discuss it, myself and Jay, 'cause Jay was watching at the same time as well. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. You click on that bell button for notification of uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, really know what it is, baby, you got the minerals. Don't forget, you can join our membership only. We will start that back when I'm back from UK. So that way in February, we'll start our membership lives only every other Tuesday, so every 2 weeks. And we're also going to get our Discord running up again as well, because I want to get that up and running and have our monthly sessions on Patreon. Okay, so yes, and let's not waste much time and let's get straight into this conversation because I think it is an interesting one because mental health is something that, especially amongst Black people, a lot of people are not very well educated, and I think that's one of the biggest issues, right? Even me myself, I'm not overly educated in mental health, but I wouldn't be saying anything of the sort of I don't believe that depression is that I believe that depression is solely a choice. Though I do believe there were some of the points that we're making were true. There are a lot of instances where people are what I call situationally depressed, meaning there's a situation that has them prolonged in their depression. Grief is one of those things. You can be triggered and you lose a partner. Maybe you haven't dealt with past traumas that links to a present day trauma and you are in an extended period of depression. There are things like that. There is a lot of those things. So when they were talking about that, I was actually agreeing. But there are a lot of instances too where people have depression because there is a chemical imbalance, which is simply put like this. Imagine you blow out your knee and I tell you, just eat good fruits. It's not going to change. Your knee's blown out, okay? Some things are done, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. You need to go and do a surgery, whatever. There are things in our life and things that happen to our body that are beyond our control of changing things, of bringing different inputs. We can minimize the factors and the risks, but there are things that are done. I got an ACL right now, as an MCL actually, and let me tell you this now, it's done. I'm not going to get surgery because I'm not about to do that to myself. But playing extreme sports with quick twists and turns, me done. I can't do it. You know what I mean? And I'm sad about it, but it is what it is. Okay? No amount of eating fruits, taking away sugar, doing all of this stuff is going to strengthen my MCL. It is what it is. Okay? But we're going to talk about that, myself and Jay. Let me get Jay on the panel. Yes, Jay.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, baby. Loving the hairstyle, baby.
Oh yeah, I have to keep it twisted up for right now and stuff, make it grow.
I'm so happy.
You know, quick twist. Hey everybody. Hey, I hope you guys are doing good. Yeah. This live, you had me like, I was like, Koja, why are you torturing us with this? I mean, it's the conversation needs to be had. It was really good. The flow of it was a little disturbing because yes, I wanted to hear you more, and they kept purposely not letting you speak. And I know it was on purpose because I was like, I know he's gonna shut it down once he gets to speak. But for some reason they just wouldn't let you speak. And it was just puzzling with the one guy that's called Doctor, who came up there with his thing. And I know not all doctors agree with a lot of things. And I know certain doctors feel certain way when it comes to giving out medications and things. I have a doctor that's like that. I have an African doctor that she's from Nigeria. That's what she does. She's going to go through every organic method first before we have to go to that extreme. However, to have the conversation and the question first be asked, do you believe depression exists? And our good brother Anton jump out there with a no. I don't think it exists. Now, during the conversation, I know he shifted to say he didn't say that, but he started off with a hard no. It does not exist. That basically we're just using this as scapegoats to just get out of situations, to get sympathy, to get people on our side, this, that, and the third. I wish that was true. I wish it was just that simple. I wish I didn't have days I actually just woke up in a dark state of mind, really heavy, and I knew exactly what it was. That's not easy to wake up, and you usually a happy, jovial type person, and just wake up on that side of the bed like, why do I exist? To actually have those really dark thoughts of really unaliving yourself. To go so far into a depressive state that you're actually numb. Like I've literally had numbness where I've had an out-of-body experience at my daughter's soccer game. And when I say out-of-body experience is because I was looking at myself literally saying, why aren't you even excited? I couldn't even get it. And for these brothers to sit here and tell us all the chemicals that go into making you happy, the endorphins, the what is it? Yeah, all of these things that go into what our adrenaline made of. And I'm sitting here knowing this because I play sports. I know I've been happy, I've been excited, I've been all these things, and I cannot literally, for the love of me, feel what's really going on in the world around me. So for them to have dismissed people who don't want to take drugs to cope, who are like attaching to friends and family just to stay up, who functions through the depression, that was really hard for me to listen to. It's like, bless your heart if you never felt it. Bless your heart. But some of us really are going through it, and some of us really do have chemical imbalances. My mother is my biological mother is clinically diagnosed bipolar and manic depressive. There are situations that led up to it, yes, but she wasn't just in a state and sitting in a state by choice. Things may trigger it from time to time, But this is something she has been dealing with since a child, something I have been dealing with since a child. And a lot of times, some of this is inherited. And God forbid you a mother who suffers depression while pregnant or feels some type of down spot during most of your pregnancy, because now you're passing some of that trait off to your children. So for these brothers to sit here and act like this is not a real thing, and I do believe that a lot of doctors are pushing their drugs that they're getting from agencies that fund some of their practices and stuff like that. I get that. But there are doctors out there that are really working with people who really go through this on a regular. I don't know. That was just like, I was just like, let some people speak on it that's probably actually gone through depression, because you want to sit here and just tell me that, oh, I'm just doing this to be on drugs. I've fought, like, literally, I'm gonna tell you an honest story. Literally, I tried to unalive myself. And when I woke up in the hospital, they were sitting here going through talks of me being put on a medication. And I had to literally lie and say I didn't try to do it just so I won't be on a medication. Not everybody just want to be on a medication. I understand there are some addicts, and I feel like those addicts will do anything that they need to get on any medication, and they'll go to any doctor that would just give it to them. Yes. But there's some people out here that are really struggling and just wants people to understand they don't want the drugs. They don't want to sit in that. That's the first thing. And that's the problem with today's culture, is the first thing we want to do is give the kid Ritalin or what's the other drugs that they give them to calm them down and sit, instead of trying to actually learn and understand what's going on. Just this past year, I was fighting. I even stopped Bible studying because I was so far gone. That's, if they want to tell it, oh, well, you just need to go ahead and, get good with God and do this stuff like that, and you'll be fine. Even God's people suffer depression. It's not natural for us to want to think of unaliving ourselves. If you ever try to bite through your hand, you can't, because you have a natural thing wired in you to not harm yourself. So think of all these people who go through these things. That you got comedians, most funniest people on the world, most darkest, loneliest minds ever. But depression don't exist. We're just using it as a scapegoat. We just want to be on drugs, this kind of stuff. It's like, why are you pushing this rhetoric? I understand, like, if I sit in it long enough, it can occur. I understand that. But I also understand that there's days I fight it from even happening. I as soon as a thought come into my mind, I erase it. But then months later, I'm back in it. Out of nowhere. I could be all the way at a party having a good time, and bam, out of nowhere, nothing triggered it. Nothing was going on that I actually know of. And I just feel this weight on me. Help me figure that out. Don't sit here and just tell me, oh, you just want drugs and you don't have a problem and it don't exist. Help me figure out why I go through these ups and downs like this. Therapy is not helping. Surrounding myself with friends sometimes is not helping. I can't enjoy alcohol or anything like that because I'm scared that it'll be my new crutch. There's some of us that are really out here struggling and trying to get by every single day with a smile on our face, not let anybody else come around when we are depressed, because we are scared that that emotion will carry over to them and make them feel some type of way. I know I've been talking a lot, so I'll let you jump back in, but
No, you know you're good. You know you're good around here. Listen, I mean, this is such a potent topic because there's so much, myths around mental health, because we don't see it as a genuine health issue. We see it as something that only the weak, succumb to. We don't see mental health the same way we see our physical health, right? And so we believe that everything, like the one of the biggest points that was made on that panel was that depression is self-inflicted, and I felt that was a very, I want to say a very shallow viewpoint to what depression is and how it can be inflicted, right? Because if you spend enough time speaking to people about their issues and their situations that they go through, like you'll realize that certain things are actually happening to people, right? So there's things that happen to you that you don't have a choice. For instance, there are people who have parents who themselves have mental disorders or mental health issues, and that child has to succumb a period of time surrounded by those mental health issues, which makes that child more susceptible also to mental health issues. And so that is not self-inflicted. You are in an environment you can't get out of, right? Mm-hmm. So just saying that somebody shouldn't dwell on something doesn't make for a viable solution, because in reality we are all going to dwell on some things, right? But we don't all get mental health issues. So clearly there is something more than just being able to dwell on something that's causing an issue. Where I did agree with him, and I wish he would have spent more time on, is actually saying, hey, let's separate the two. Making it very clear. And I think that would have been better in terms of a conversation, rather than trying to be intentionally what I would call divisive, to try and, create a moment where you bracket everything under the same thing, right? What would have been better, especially from the doc and from Anton, would have been to separate the two, say, hey, look, we understand there are people that generally have mental health issues that, maybe through chemical imbalance, Where we're coming from, maybe they would have said is, hey, there are situations where people, all right, may have depression, but there may be a root cause. There may be some trauma. There may be this, there may be that then, links up to what's happening to now, and that's why they are suffering through depression. That would have been a more healthier conversation and a much more beneficial one to help the growth of people. Instead, we got these, I call myths, which govern the conversation that cause more issues. For instance, at first, like you said, when he started, it was about depression doesn't exist, which I think was naive. And then it became depression is a choice. So now it exists, but it's a choice. And then it became, well, okay, actually, if it does exist, how come it didn't exist a couple 100 years ago? Well, I mean, if people are not diagnosing it, I don't know what you want me to do, bro. Like if they don't diagnose it, they're not recognizing it, so you won't see it. Then it became, well, I don't have time for depression. Well, you're right, you don't. When you're in survival mode, you're actually not addressing the emotional issues that you actually contain, and you're just working to achieve a particular goal. For instance, you're working your ass off to pay bills. So that's your whole focus. You can be depressed for that whole entire time. You may not sit down and actually address the depression that you're actually going through, but because you're in survival mode. I mean, if you're running from a lion, do you think you have time to remember that you're depressed? You won't. When the lion stops chasing you, you're going to realize that you're depressed. And you were depressed. And you have been depressed.
Please don't chase me. I'm depressed right now.
That's my point. You ain't gonna tell a lion that, because you're in survival mode. The reason why I believe that depression has come up so much now is because of what we've suffered in not only ourselves, but we have what we call generational trauma that's been passed down from generation to generation, and eventually gets to a place where people can now no longer run from the lion, and now you have to deal with not only your own issues, not only issues that are in your family, but issues that come from generations before you that are impacting you in your genes and in your cells. So now, when you do settle down, these things can get triggered very easy, and we don't know why we're being triggered, or we don't know why this is happening, and this can actually cause, one, chemical imbalances, situational depression, to whatever you want to call it, right? That would have been a much more beneficial conversation to talk about in terms of explaining the nuances that go into it, rather than saying depression doesn't exist, or now depression is a choice, and that people are choosing to be depressed. And I actually understood what he meant by saying taking drugs. I got it. Yes, some doctors are willing to peddle drugs, but that's for anything. That's where any sickness out there, they're always willing to peddle something because we know pharmaceuticals are in for money. That has got nothing to do with depression. That's just to do with the industry itself. So why did depression get that sudden push? Well, because we don't believe depression actually is something that people suffer. We believe that people are weak. And that's essentially what the message was. You're weak if you suffer through depression. The reason why you're depressed is because you ain't got the mental tough-tossity like me and like others like myself. We don't succumb to depression. The reality of the situation is that's not how depression works. Just like I said, there are great, strong people who have played sports, and one day I got an MCL not because someone tackled me. I got an MCL because I put my leg to the left, my body went to the right, which I've done for 29 years, and suddenly I heard a pop. And that was it, the end. So what is it? Was it a choice? No, simply put, listen, my time had come. Unfortunately, it's an unlucky injury. I put my leg this way, put my leg that way. I've been doing it for 29 years. I've never been injured. Suddenly I get injured. Career done, right? It happens. And so these things, calling it a choice, I think were very naive and actually very divisive. Wasn't helpful to the conversation. And I think it, again, kind of spearheads that poor conversation around mental health and how it really affects people as well.
Now, I will say to a degree, I do feel myself that sometimes depression is a choice. However, and when I say this, before I go to the however, I say it because sometimes you can sit in your depression and not do anything and let it succumb to it and just swallow up in it. And some people around you recognize it. So you get those little, oh, are you okay? You get that little burst of everybody's paying attention to you. However, I am one of those people, like I say, nowadays, as soon as I feel like it coming on, I'm trying to block it out. I'm trying to erase that thought. I'm trying to switch it for something happy. However, you can, like somebody said in the chat, you can say every day, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm fine, today's a great day, things are going to be happy, but you're still carrying that weight. You're still walking with it. You can talk to everybody and try to go through everything that's been going on around you and say this, that, and the third. I've been dealing with this, try to get all the weight up off of you. And sometimes it still doesn't help. You can pray to God, Jehovah, all day long. And sometimes it still is hard to get out the bed in the morning. So sometimes, even if you want to sit there and say it's a choice, some of us are actually choosing not to be in it, yet we're still in it. So where's my choice really? Where is my choice? What do I do for that part? Because I'm choosing to fight it on a regular. I wish I had the luxury that I can't afford it. I wish I had that luxury. I wish that I could sit here and just say I was weak and you're stronger than me mentally and all this stuff like that. Mentally, I can look at it this way. There's two ways that most depressive people look at it. Mentally, I'm strong if I can actually go through with the unaliving part. And then I can look at it the other way. I'm mentally strong because I'm actually still standing here fighting through it day by day and functioning enough that you don't even recognize that I'm going through it. The hardest part and the weakest part for us sometimes is actually asking for help, actually telling people that we have a problem, that we are sitting here feeling some type of way and we don't know how to get out of it. And the hardest part for the people around us is not knowing how to get us out of it, because we don't even know how to help ourselves. So you can sit here and say that you're mentally strong and all this stuff like that. Like, I've been on the highs. I've been on the athletic highs of the mental thing or whatever and stuff like that. I've been on, you've been on those highs where it's just like you're so in love and all this stuff like that. I've had those highs. But to climb your way out the dirt from them lows, that's the toughest battle I've ever had. To sit there and look in my daughter's face and actually sit here and tell her, hey, if I'm not here tomorrow, this is what you need to do. That's a tough conversation. I don't know how you gonna say somebody is weak to sit here and be able to deal with that, to look people actually in the eye and just be like, I need help. And the sad part is those people that actually go through with the unaliving, they've been doing that for a long time and nobody paid attention. And that's what hurts the most, is when people say that this does not exist and we should just go on, because those are the dismissive people that ignore it until it happens to somebody in their family, or they know somebody close to it or whatever. Then they want to sit there and say, oh, I didn't notice. They always seem so happy. Because you were just too selfish to even pay attention to all their cries. I tell people a lot of times, most people that, this is going to be real dark right now, but most people that actually go through with the unaliving themselves never ever scream, I'm about to do it. They just do it. But there's other signs that lead up to it. And it's not always just sitting in the room in the dark, listening to somber music and, having hoodies on and all. It's not always like that. Some of us literally function. Some of us actually laugh through it all. And to act like the old people back in the day didn't go through it, they didn't have diagnosed for a lot of things. They just said, oh, that one's touched, or that one's a little off, or whatever, and stuff like that. They didn't know what to call it. They didn't know why their child was not the same and happy like everybody else. It wasn't until doctors actually started doing research and testing different chemicals on the brain and seeing how it functioned. That's how they even came up with the drug to give you to help your endorphins fire back off. Some of us actually have a blockage. Some of us have thyroid issues that cause the blockage that causes depression. It's not just all you just suffering and you just want attention and all this stuff like that. Go get checked. It could really just be your hormones are not firing off the way they're supposed to. Or something could have triggered it. It could be situational. You could have got fired or whatever. And yes, you're sitting in it too long and you're just a little too down on yourself or whatever. Or you got it passed on from a parent. Or it's all three. But it exists. And we need to start paying attention to it, because it is a part of our mental health. It's a part of our community. And if we want to sit here and talk about how we're for the community, we cannot just be dismissive when people say they're going through it. We need to actually take the time to research which one are they actually going through. Do they actually just need to be medicated? Do they actually just need to sit down and talk to somebody? Can it be fixed? Can it be helped? Can it be addressed? Can we help you? Like, do you even want the help? I know it's a very hard topic to talk about, because nobody likes to talk about burying their parents or mental health here, there, and stuff like that, especially as a Black man. And I'm saying that because it was mostly Black men that was up there speaking against it. But how the Black man has to be so strong and all this stuff like that, it's like you add more pressure to yourself for what? Not to look vulnerable or weak, as you call it. I don't know.
Appreciate it. Let me add someone to the combo. Hey, Linda V.
Hey y'all, how you doing?
We doing good, sis. We doing good. Talk to me, man. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was listening to you, Jay. I actually agree that the hardest part is to just ask for help. For me, I did get to a real low, dark place a couple of years ago, and I didn't kind of know what was wrong. I just knew I just wasn't feeling myself, crying all the time, feeling sad, and I'm the person in my family that they quote unquote say I'm the strong one, I know how to deal with certain things, when things happen, I'm the first one to jump into action. But for me, I just couldn't pull myself out of the low point. And it took a lot, like, for me to just be like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I need to talk to somebody. And you know, my sister, my cousin was all like, you know, what's wrong? Like, you know, how can we help? And it's like, you don't even know how somebody can help because you don't even know what you need help with. So, you know, it took me a while, like, actually reaching out to a therapist and talking to somebody to, you know, just kind of work through some things that I was dealing with. But, you know, for me too, like, that's the hardest part, just asking for help. Like,
And I was just gonna say, as you say that too, being a woman. Oh, yeah, man. But being a woman, it's even harder because, like Nessa just said, there's so many different things. And then don't add on if you had a kid and you just recently had one, because then it might be postpartum, you know. And sometimes that's offset. Like it can come later on. It might not come right away. It can come some years later. You know, we have grief. Like I'm weirdly wired. In the moment, I don't grieve as hard. But some years later, I wake up out of sleep cold sweat from a dream of that person or whatever, and just bust out crying. Like we all grieve different. So sometimes the depression could go away like this. It'd be that moment. But there's times that it's going on for months. And I'm like, this is a problem. It's going on too long. You know, and you get tired. I'm sorry. Like sometimes you really get tired of trying to make yourself happy every single second. Not every single day, but every single second you're trying to make yourself happy. You get tired. Because I'm this is just my firm belief that nobody outside of me can really make me happy. And so if I'm trying to get happiness from somebody else, I can't, because I can't feel it. I go numb. When I get depressed, I go numb and I can't even feel anything they're trying to provide for me. That's scary to me. When I actually went numb, that was the most scariest feeling that I've ever had. And I was numb for about 4 years. That was crazy. And I know a part of it was due to some childhood trauma and a trigger that just occurred just recently or whatnot. But I was literally fighting on a regular to feel something again. I don't know what day. One day I just started feeling my adrenaline pop back in. I have no clue of what, I can't remember exactly what I was doing. I was just like, oh my God, it was just a warm woosah type wash, like ocean just hit me type feeling when it came back. But when I realized that I actually lost it, that was the scariest, because I was like, I have no clue. I'm just here existing. And I feel attached and a part of absolutely nothing. It was just I was just feeling like a black hole, an empty space. I don't know if you ever had that feeling like that before too, but.
yeah, I actually, you know, I guess the lowest point, like, I actually got to where I started thinking about, you know, unaliving myself, like contemplating, like, should I, you know, and then I'm like, you know, what are my kids gonna do? And, you know, I started just thinking about, you know, all, like, everybody in my life, like, how can I do that? And it's just like, that's the part that scared me the most, because I'm like, am I really, you know, it's like your mind plays tricks on you. It's like, am I really thinking about this? Like, and it's like, why can't I just pull myself out of it? And like you said too, it's like people, you know, come to me. You know, I had kids. I had I have more grandkids now, but at the time I only had one grandson, and I'm like, you know, like, people need me, but it's like, I can't find anybody to help me. Like, you know, I'm doing everything. I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm taking care of the grandkid, I'm going to work, you know, people calling me with their little problems, I'm helping them with their problems, and I'm like, you know, like, screaming but quietly, like, somebody help me, like, I need help too. So yeah, it's very hard dealing with that. Hi, Seaway.
Hi,
See
sorry,
where?
I didn't realize you brought me up. Hey, you guys.
That's all right, no problem at all. We're just talking about depression, and people's obviously experiences of it, whether it was a choice or whether it's whether it's a choice or whether it's something that happens to us. We're just kind of having a general conversation about that. So, don't know if you had an opinion or thought process on it.
Yeah, the idea of it being a choice was almost like such a silly concept, almost too silly to even respond to. But I guess there are people who just don't understand. I was actually not going to come up because I felt like I didn't have anything to add. But then I thought it is good to actually hear from people who may have just had peripheral experiences or just from a more outside perspective, because I think that's a important viewpoint. Um, just trying to figure out how you can help people, loved ones who do suffer from depression, and if you're having temporary or kind of more situational depression, just how do you deal with that? But you know, I would start by saying that, my brother has clinical depression. So I grew up seeing someone with depression. So early on, I realized that, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. And I remember as a child, I didn't quite understand why I felt like he got special treatment growing up compared to the rest of us. But when you grow up and you get older, you really understand that, he's doing so much better now, but his life has been crippled by it. So um, you just try to understand and be helpful. And I think you always kind of have a fear that you're going to miss something. But you just kind of have to have peace by the fact that you can only do what you can do and they can only do what they can do. And after that, you just have to try to pray and pray that, using all the available things that we have in society, whether those are drugs, if someone wants to use the drugs, then there's a whole nother conversation about I know Jay was saying how she didn't want to use it, just how bad the drugs that we have for mental health now are. Um, a lot of people don't want to use them because they make them feel numb. They make them gain weight. You feel like you can't be yourself. And so I really wish there were more options for people, especially suffering from chemical depression. And there's just not. So I understand why so many people don't want to use them. But I want to talk about how you try to look for the signs and how to deal and look for the signs where you're trying to help and be there for people. I won't tell the whole story because I don't know who listens and who will know. I don't want to say too much, but I will say that a year and a half ago, I had a really close friend. We thought he was missing. He or she was missing. Super happy go lucky personality. I would say kind of like similar to Kojo, like really upbeat, always smiling, always dancing. Um, and me and this person actually fallen out like the year before for something stupid, honestly. But I still had their location on my phone. And everybody had kind of started calling me when they couldn't find this person. And come to find out that I guess they had a kind of small moment. They had suffered depression before and they had a small moment of just feeling really bad and they tried to end their life. And I just remember feeling really, really guilty about what I could have done, what I missed, and feeling bad that I wasn't talking to the person for a while. But what I will say is that that person kind of reassured me and everyone else that was feeling bad that sometimes there are no signs. Sometimes people make decisions and there's like they explained it to me like a devil was attacking them that day and they couldn't really get the devil out of their mind and the devil was kind of telling them to do this thing and they did this thing. And it wasn't a big lead up. There wasn't a lot going on. There was nothing that people really could have spotted. And I'm only saying this for maybe anybody who's here who feels like they could have did something to save somebody. Um, I'm lucky enough to be able to have that conversation with this person who by the grace of God is still alive. It was not a weak attempt. It was a full-fledged attempt that honestly I feel like only God is the reason why this person is still here. Um so I think a lot of people who may feel like they could have did something for someone that they love, sometimes um you may not be able to do anything. But if you are, I would say just don't be fooled by somebody smiling and laughing and running around and always seeming like they're the person that's there for everyone and trying to hold everyone down, a lot of the times those are the people that need help the most. And so if you see someone who's always keeping you up, maybe you might want to ask, how are you doing? And maybe they'll talk to you about what they're going through. Sometimes the smiles are just that's just their personality, but that doesn't mean that they're okay. So I wanted to say that. And lastly, I just wanted to talk, and Jay, I also heard you talking about this, women and what women go through in our bodies and miscarriages and hormonal things. I've never had chemical depression, but I did after a miscarriage get really depressed. And I think I was chemically depressed. And I was acting completely crazy. And I actually realized mid-moment, I'm like, yo, there's something wrong with me. Like I realized I wasn't myself. And I talked to so many women since then because I don't talk about it much. And I realized that a lot of women have experienced this either postpartum or post miscarriage of where they really are chemically imbalanced. And so I just think it's really helpful to talk about that because a lot of women act like, we'll have the miscarriage or, unfortunately maybe an abortion or we'll be in postpartum and we try to push through like it's something that we can do. And a lot of times your body is just fluctuating and trying to regulate. And there's really nothing you can do but try to confide in the people that you love and let them know, hey, I'm not okay right now. I know me and I know something's up. Something's wrong. And I think it's helpful to tell people, I'm not me right now. Something's up. I trust you. Please look out for me. Please be here for me. I can feel that I'm not myself. And that's what I did. I think once I finally realized that there was something wrong, and it was helpful because I got a lot more grace because I'm like, look, I'm just not myself. So yeah, I think those are things you can do. I think weather, lack of sunlight also causes depression. Getting sun has been a really big deal for me. People call me bougie because I went from my small apartment during COVID where I didn't understand why I was having moments where I was sad. And then I came to an apartment here where I have these big windows and light. And when I tell you I am sad, maybe 90% less often because I just get sunlight. And that may sound like a really small thing to do, but sunlight, working out, and telling people when you do all of that and it's not enough, that there's still something up, is really, really helpful to do. And so I just wanted to say just the small things that you can do to help regulate and help try to be okay. So.
I agree with that, Seaway. That is, and don't get me wrong when I say that you can see the signs, but a lot of times I say you see the signs because people are trying to have more people to keep them accountable so they don't take that easy route, as some people might call it. They don't take that time to go ahead and really do it. And like I say, if they're going to do it, it's no stopping. You can't really stop them. Even if you see the signs, you talk to them. If that's what they're going to do, they're going to do it. But what you can do is probably deter them in the seconds, just to rethink and reconsider living. Hence why I actually had the conversation with my daughter. Because if I didn't do it, I know I would have went that route. But I had to do it because I needed a reason to actually not go that far. So I just say, like, I'm not saying that all signs is going to be prevalent. I'm not saying that people are always going to just walk up to you. But when you know your friend is not acting normal, just say, are you okay? And then ask one more time for good measure. Because sometimes by that second or third time of, are you okay, they'll break down. If they really trust you and they really F with you, they'll break down and stuff. And so I'm just saying, as a community, just take this time away from yourself and look at your neighbor and say, are you okay?
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of what happened with me. Because what happened, it was like about 5 or 6 years ago. But now, like when I start feeling low or whatever, like me and my sister and my cousin, we all like in a group chat. It's certain things that I say sometimes, and then my sister like will message me separately and be like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" So sometimes they know like by the way that I'm talking or certain things that I say I'm going through. But it's really important to, have one person or, some type of family member or friend that you trust to even be that open and vulnerable with to kind of tell, because you're not going to tell everybody. But of course, you need somebody to kind of break that wall and just be like, hey, I'm not feeling well, or, I'm going through this, or, I'm feeling this kind of way. Um, and yeah, because like I didn't tell my kids. So, kudos to you, Jay, for even being able to tell your daughter. Because I don't think, I don't know. I don't think I could tell my kids that I was thinking about doing that. Um, but thankfully, I did kind of think about that. Like, think about them, how they would feel, what they would be going through, what they would do, without me. Like, I lost my parents. Um, my father died at 54, and my mother died at 55. And I'm actually 54 now. And I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, like, that was still young. Like, I can't imagine just not being here, even at this age. And my kids, they're not fully grown, but I'm like, they're adults, but I'm like, they're still young enough to need me. So I don't know. It's very, very crazy. And you're right, Seaway, too, about especially women, our hormones affect our emotions, and definitely getting sun and vitamin D affects our emotions and our mental state.
Yeah, and I think with Jay telling her daughter, especially when your daughter's age appropriate, it's really one of the bravest things you can do, because your daughter, especially the daughters, right? But the sons too, they're gonna hold you accountable, and they're gonna make sure that's the person you tell when you're like, I really want to be here, because your kids are gonna really try to do everything that they can to keep you here. Um, and my mother, very high functioning, and I guess a lot of people wouldn't think that later on in life you can start getting depression and stuff. She ended up telling us that she was depressed. And at first I didn't really believe it, because still sometimes there's a disconnect between high functioning people and people that have depression. But it got to a certain point where after she told me, I really started breaking down. I threw her like a 60th birthday party, and she cried the whole birthday party. And when we was done with that birthday party, I said, girl, tomorrow we going to get you some medicine, because I don't know what's going on, but you're scaring me. And she did. She went down to get some medicine, and she was better. I mean, she fought me on it, but I said, we gotta regulate. You ain't gotta stay on it forever, because she tried to fight a long time without the medicine. And I know a lot of times people try to do that, but if you're fighting for a long time and all the natural remedies are not working, there's nothing wrong with getting the medicine, even if it's temporary, because it may be able to balance you out and you can get off of it, because that's what she did. She got off of it, because you don't want to stay on it too long, because sometimes it can make you gain weight and can give you other problems. But, I think you got to lean on the people that you love, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing weak about it. And you can still be the strength and the rock of your family and still be suffering with mental health issues. So we definitely, I think I commend Jay for her transparency, and Kojo for having this discussion. I'll definitely let everybody else keep talking, but I just think this is a really good conversation for this, because if it wasn't for this, I probably wouldn't say anything about anything, because I think I'm a person, I can say you should talk about it, but I don't share a lot about my personal life, because I think in the back of my head sometimes I do think it makes me weak, and I think it makes me vulnerable. And when I feel vulnerable, I feel like I can get got. It's like that type of cycle. But I think this platform is good because this is definitely a safe space. So
Thank you, Seaway. Estella, what's good?
Hola, how y'all doing? I wanted to come up because I saw the title and I said, is depression a choice? And I literally in my head, the first answer that came to my mind was yes. And I know that that is very like, it's nuanced, right? So for a person like me, I'm someone I like to research mental health things. I like to research on YouTube University. I like to research by reading books, by asking questions. I'm a hairstylist, so I work with clients. So I encounter a lot of different types of people. So I like to ask people that I meet all the time questions. If I meet psychiatrists or therapists, I've had many psychiatrists and therapists sit in my chair. And being a hairstylist on its own is a mental health. It makes me a mental health sub professional just by my nature. So when I saw this, I said, "Is the well, yeah, it's a choice." But I want to delve into that answer by saying it can be a choice, but if you're not aware around your own personal mental health or your mental wellness, um, then you become subject to it. It becomes a condition, right? And I don't have any like statistics or factual writings I read or heard on YouTube or anything, but because this is something that I do look into for myself quite often, considering my family history and my personal experience with depression, um, I know for a fact that there are a lot of things, a lot of small things that we can do about managing depression. So um, I'm kind of like going on a tangent, but I want to like keep going down the yellow brick road with it. So there are a lot of things that we can do. When Seaway mentioned about the sunlight, that was the one thing I wanted to say. There's so many small things we can do about being depressed because we live in a day and age of information, right? We have computers literally at the palm of our hands. We can look up anything on the internet, right? And yeah, you have to mind like where's the information coming from, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Essentially, there are a lot of small things that we can do for ourselves if we have the awareness around mental health. And it's such a big discussion in today's time that I don't think there's not a corner that the mental health conversation hasn't reached. So, with that said, there's so much information we can tap into. Small things like getting enough sunlight is so very helpful. And I'm glad that Seaway said that. I wanted to say that as well. Your breathing techniques, a lot of times we're not breathing properly because we're always doing so much. We're doing so many things, and we feel like we have to accomplish so many things in a span of 24 hours. And we don't take the time to sit for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning and really focus on your breathing. Like maybe sometimes people say like, oh, I make my prayer, I make my salad, I do this every day, I do that every day. But even to separate something so easy as breathing, something that if we can't breathe for what is it, like 7 seconds, you can literally cease to live. You have to breathe. You cannot eat for a week, you cannot drink water for a couple of days, but if you stop breathing for so many minutes, you're out of here. So knowing about breath work, and I'm not saying you have to be some like yogi on a mountain, but just taking 5 to 10 minutes out of your day to pay attention to how am I breathing, and that can even help you tap into what's going on upstairs mentally. Little things like that can be so helpful, and maybe you can tap into yourself enough and tap in with your spirituality enough with those breathing techniques, or stepping outside for 5 minutes, even if it's cloudy outside, getting fresh air, and maybe that will help you tap in and say, hey, maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I should look into talking to a therapist. Let me ask them, do you think I need to be diagnosed? Should I talk to a psychiatrist and see if there's something deeper? Because I do have these type of, I don't want to say the word, but suicidal ideations. If we can take the time to stop and consider that and like look into information and take those steps in order to find out, hey, am I clinically depressed, or do I have another type of mental health disorder? Um, that kind of just is where I wanted to go with saying, like, that would be my reason for answering yes, that depression is a choice. And I know that's nuanced because there are still so many, with all the information we can get, it is about what you want to tap into for yourself. So there are a lot of people who still don't understand mental health or mental wellness, and it's just so much information too. It can be overwhelming. But I just want to encourage these type of conversations. I want to continue to be a part of these type of conversations because me personally, I know that depression and clinical depression is a part of a family background and history, and because I understand that, I'm a strong advocate for the awareness around, you know, actual diagnoses. I have friends who are bipolar and diagnosed with manic anxiety or schizophrenia. So, and people in my family have been diagnosed clinically depressed. I've never gotten diagnosed, but I know that it comes in waves and patterns. So I'm very vocal about mental health and like speaking about it. So I just, I said a lot, but I wanted to answer the question and also just give my personal bias why I answered that way.
I appreciate your answer. I'm not going to have no pushback. I'm just going to ask a question. So when we do the exercise, we sit in the sun, we read the books, we talk to the therapist, we do all of these things, yet the weight is still heavy on us. Is it still a choice?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a choice at that point. I think you're already making the choice to work on what the issue is. Like, that's why I said, like, you can be subject to the depression, but the fact that you're doing something about it, that's what for me clicks over and says that you're choosing to not just be depressed. At that point, for me, you're making the choice to do something about the condition that you're experiencing, right? And so maybe I didn't get that across initially. That's why I was trying to say, like, my bias to saying like it's a choice, but if you don't have like enough information to like do things to counter the depression, that's when I feel like then it's not a choice, right? Because when you're aware about it and you're not doing the things that you can to try to counter it, and it might not always work. All the things we do, taking medication, going in the sun, breathing exercise, therapy. If it's still not working, I would say as long as you keep making action to counter the condition, then you're making the choice to not be depressed. You're not just aware about it and doing nothing. If you're unaware and you're doing nothing, then I don't feel like it's a choice. You're completely subject to it. But if you're aware and you choose to do nothing, then you're choosing to be depressed. But if you're aware and you're choosing to do something about it, then you're choosing to not be depressed because you're making the action toward countering the condition.
So is it fair to say that the depression is not the choice, but the action to try to rid yourself of it is the choice?
That would be, I think that would be fair to say how I'm explaining it.
Yeah, because in most cases, like in the beginning, you don't even know to call it depression. Like you don't know what's wrong. Like you're just sad all the time, or like you're like everything is like what's the word? Like dreadful. Like everything is just bad. You don't know what it is. Like you don't want to get out the bed, and you have to work because you have a family to take care of, but you don't know why you don't want to get out the bed. It's like it's just like a trickle down. Like you don't know what it is, so it's hard to even say the depression itself is a choice because like in the beginning you don't even know you're depressed. Like you just know you don't feel right, or you're just not yourself. You know what I mean? So I feel like the same way you were saying, Jay. Like if the depression is not the choice is actually doing something about it, or reaching out for help, or trying to figure out like what is it, like what is wrong with me. That part is the choice.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
It's a
you know,
condition.
oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think it opened up another section of conversation, because I think Estella was telling us about maybe some of the things that can help mitigate the effects of depression. But that actually wouldn't take away the fact that you have depression. You already got it. That's why you're mitigating it, which means that you ain't got a choice. You actually got a choice in how you deal with it and how you manage it, but you still got depression. That's why you're managing it, which was part of the argument from the video that we played in the very beginning, and what we're trying to make people understand, that the depression itself isn't the choice. Like, I mean, this is if the body decides to respond this way, right, and you end up having depression, you didn't have a choice in it. The body responded that way, right? But you can manage or mitigate in some circumstances some of those effects. So as I was talking, I was writing some things down, right? So sometimes you hear people say these things to help manage your depression, right? Sunlight, water, exercise, diet, sugar, environment, energy that people bring around you, emotional burnout, breathing, fighting trauma, showering, fresh air, reading a book. All those things can help, right? And there's probably like a million more. But what happens when all of that is done? Where do you go to next? See, then, and that's unfortunately sometimes even having to manage it with the tools and resources, you're still left with the same argument, which is, after I've done all of that, I'm actually not any different than I was before. And that's the kind of conversation we're having. I do believe that some people have what I call situational depression, which is one of those situations, if we were to utilize it, would actually probably start solving some of that pain that people have, or that the health condition of the mental health in that aspect. But if you've done all of that and you still don't get the results that you require in terms of having a better mental health, then we're going to have to look a bit deeper. And I open a conversation that way to say, I do believe that in our health in any country when it comes to mental health is poverty, because what doesn't get done is an exploration of these things, right? In terms of how do we make sure holistically we're trying to solve your issue first and foremost. Before we put you on any drugs, before we put that on you straight away, there needs to be a conversation in terms of how do we first try and manage this first and foremost, and let's see if this will solve any of the issues, right? And really being on task in terms of actually helping people in this particular way. And actually, you know, like I said, I think some people have, and again, it's not all, it's some. That's why I made a distinction between the two, between chemical imbalances and things that actually happen in terms of people having situational depression. You can never tell if we're not actually doing an actual thorough assessment of the person, which means actually they're going to have some mental health advocates. You're probably going to have some counselors who are going to be involved too, because there is issues that are also going to be tied into this, right? Because aside, obviously, the depression actually coming up, you'll probably find that a lot of people have gone through some shit. So, you know, that also is going to be tied into that as well. So there's a lot of things that are going to be working alongside this. So just to open up that conversation, I heard what Estella was saying, and I understood what you were trying to say, and I think the ladies kind of nicely kind of, you know, brought it back round to kind of make it explain that, you know, depression itself isn't the choice, it's how we're managing it that becomes a choice. And I think some people put in a chat as well saying that, you know, sometimes you get it comes so sunlight. You don't want to think about drinking, you don't want to think about taking a bath, you don't want to think about your diet, you don't want to think about anything else in that immediate moment. And sometimes it can be very difficult because, again, you have to be literally aware of what's going on within your body. And that can be very difficult too, because I don't know if you've ever had pain before. But when you have pain in your body, sometimes all common sensibilities, any answers that people are giving you, it doesn't make sense. All that you can hear is pain. And in that moment, all you want to do is that pain to soothe. But I'll even say something today. I was talking to Sean about something today, right? And so I was going through something a little bit, which is nothing compared to depression per se, right? But just something that I was going through, and I was dealing with it alone. So I told Sean, I said, bro, this situation, did you know I slept for the last 4 hours? That's my way of dealing with issues of stress. When things are stressing me, I go to sleep for 4 or 5 hours. I wake up and I go to sleep again, right? Because me and Jay said we're going to do this live maybe a couple of hours ago. I saw it as I'm going back to bed. I went to bed at 4. I woke up at 8. I looked it up again. When 2 hours stayed up, I went and looked at social media. I went back to bed again. That's actually one of my coping mechanisms with dealing with when there's too much stress, or if I feel like I'm feeling some anxiety. I rarely feel anxiety, but once in a while I get some anxiety. Like when I lost my job, I felt anxiety, and I said, I'm going to sleep. And hopefully when I wake up, I'm going to have a better mindset to be able to solve what's in front of me. Woke up and I'm still feeling my chest doing do. And I thought there's something wrong here, you know? Now, in that mind frame, because I'm not a person that suffers anxiety on a constant basis, I was able to go, you know what? Let me go and exercise. Let me go and read a book. Let me go. I can think about all those things because it's not my day-to-day practice, you know what I mean? And it wasn't so crazy enough that I was crippled by it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I'm saying that there are different scenarios. I didn't suffer it in the most crippling manner. I do understand that some people really do go through anxiety. Some people really do go through depression and really go in it and go deep, dark hole, and they go quick. So there's a difference between those who are having an onslaught and those who are, it's slowly creeping up on you. Because when the onslaught comes, you are overtaken. And there's literally, it is very difficult in that space to want to do anything else apart from just exist. You don't know what else to do because everything around you is black. So I can understand that process too as well. So yeah, I think the ladies did a good job in terms of just kind of bringing that point there, that depression itself wasn't the choice. It's how we're managing it that I think was a really good way of putting it across to open up that aspect. I don't know if you want to jump back in, Jay, for yourself.
No, I was going to really say too, in the ways that we manage it sometimes, like when you, bless your heart that you've never experienced it in the slightest, okay, but when you go to the point of being numb, the way you try to cope with it outside of like sleeping and the exercise and, drinking and eating properly, sometimes you go to dark places to cope with it. You start drinking more, you start doing drugs, you start having like all kind of sex, whatever, and stuff like that. You're trying to feel something or whatnot. And that's what it goes. It's like you say, it's a choice. What is the choice is to continue to fight and not let it overcome you. Because some of them dark places, like I said earlier, you go to is unaliving yourself because you're trying to feel something. And you feel like if in that moment, if I can just cut myself and feel this pain. And sometimes, unfortunately, those people that have successfully done it didn't feel nothing still. Because for whatever reason, something is not firing off and nothing. Sunlight helps endorphins. Yes. Exercise, help push your vitamin D. Exercise helps promote your endorphins and all this stuff like that. But however, what depression does is send a different chemical to block all of those receptors. And you don't get that emotion firing off through the rest of your body. You're doing the things that your brain is telling you to do to get that, to feel back, to feel yourself again, to feel whole again. However, nothing is reaching those parts of the body that needs to feel that. And that's why I had tell y'all that whole story when I was sitting at my daughter's soccer game and I should be cheering with the parents, but I felt nothing. And it was weird because I was like, I should be excited about this. I played sports before. I know how it feels to play sports. The kids are doing good things. And literally, I am numb standing there. So I would say for those that are like fighting with it, continue your fight. Don't give up. Don't take that route out that you feel like you don't have anything else. I even fight that thought all the time. Start with what I do, start telling people how you feel so you can actually have people keep you accountable for staying here. Start building your people around you, your village. I like to take trips. That usually would be my thing. Like, I wish I had seasonal depression. I wish it was just that, it's wintertime, so let me go to an island. That would be my thing all the time. But even on that island, I feel lonely. I feel nothing. Like, sometimes it just happens. And so I'm not saying that there's nothing you can do about it. If you're like me, you don't want to really take the medicine, or let me put it like this. If you don't want to take non-organic medicines, because there are some out there. There's some herbs and different things that help open up those blockers and get your receptors back firing like they're supposed to. But if you don't want to take the over-the-counter or the prescribed stuff that the doctors gave, because those things numb you as well and put you in darker places a lot of times, because yes, the side of the bottle, like the brother said on the live, says may cause suicidal thoughts. So that's kind of like defeating the purpose. But if you don't want to take those things and you're a functioning depressive type person, you just got to keep fighting. I really don't know what to tell you. I don't have no answers for it. I'm still trying to find the answers myself. It's just every day is a fight to get out the bed. And I just have to start living day by day. I can't think about the future. I can't think about the past. I just have to be in the moment, because that's the only thing I know at this point that has been keeping me going, is just staying in the moment and just letting every moment play out as it is. I'll just stop there.
Thank you. Let me get Nikki Nicole in. Go for it, Nikki Nicole. Thank you for joining us from Instagram as well. So shout out to you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, Jay, I appreciate you telling us about your journey with this depression. I do not believe it's a choice. I believe that it comes on unannounced, unwarranted, and a lot of times a lot of people are not educated about it, so it does kind of debilitate you because you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why it's happening. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know where to run to. You don't know anything. It cripples you, right? Like Hojo said. So I've dealt with it, in life in general. Not to be so personal about my own life. I know mine is more chemically, my grandmother used to always say, "Oh, y'all get away from me." Women are having their, monthly. And I never understood that, right? So, and I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. Why does that have to deal with your mood swings and you not understanding why you're feeling so sad one minute, you're happy the next minute or whatever. But now as a, an older woman now, I understand it's chemicals. Your body reacts in ways that your chemicals or whatever, they can decrease at a certain time of the month and cause you to go into depressive moods. And just not, really not understand if you're not really paying attention to your body. But yeah, depression is definitely not a choice. I don't think nobody wakes up in the morning and say, "Oh, pick me, I want to feel depressed." It could really change your, trajectory in life if you're not careful with it. And so I just like to extend my hand to say, I understand. And, I don't know how to necessarily say that people should, get a hold of it, because I don't know the answer myself. I know that it can be chemical. I know that it can be situational. I know that it can be different levels of depression, and it can spiral completely out of control as far as like with anxiety. And, some people deal with different other mental disorders. Unfortunately, people don't look at mental health because it's not a physical thing always. You don't just, you can get dressed in the morning. I could get dressed in the dark. I could do my hair. I could come outside looking like $1,000,000, but you can't see it sometimes. It hides itself. It's like a silent killer, for those that are not aware of the signs or what's happening. So I try to tell people to talk, communicate, because we can't see it sometimes. It doesn't have a face. We don't know. We can't say who's clinically or situationally depressed by looking at them. I mean, some people might be down in the dumps, but are the happiest. How do we know? You don't know until you actually talk to someone and kind of get in their head and see how they're doing. But I certainly don't. I don't want anybody to, well, that's just my opinion. Let me say that. My opinion is depression is not a choice. So I wanted to kind of chime in. I hope that I got a point across. I know I'm a little nervous or whatever. I just wanted to chime in.
Never a problem, Nikki Nicole. Thank you. We appreciate your personal opinion and how you showed us your experience as well. We appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. No worries at all. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add in terms of the conversation or anything to share. By all means, feel free.
I was
Yes,
just
Stella,
say,
go for it.
go
Sorry.
ahead. You could go first.
Oh, I was thinking as she was talking, I was thinking it's kind of like with people who have addictive personalities, addictions and stuff. Um, People who don't have it kind of can't see it. Like they can't see that you can't just have one drink. Like, I have people with addictions in my family, and it's like I could just have a drink, or I could not drink for like 6 months, and it's not a problem to me. But then I have cousins who have to drink like every day, like they have to, and it's like with people who have depression or suffer with depression and anxiety and every kind of level, um people who don't experience it kind of can't understand, like they can't understand why you can't get out of bed, or what's wrong with you, like just asking somebody like what's wrong with you, like they don't understand it because they're just not experiencing. They just we all are different, made differently by God. So some people have it, some people don't. Like just like some people are addicted to drugs and alcohol, and they can't just stop at one. And some people could have a drink, smoke a joint, and that'd be that for them. So it's like people are just different.
Thank you, Linda. Go for it, Stella.
The only thing that wanted to add, I just wanted to say I did stand corrected. Is like, as far as my answer is like, is depression a choice, right? So in standing corrected, depression definitely is a condition, and it is conditional, could be situational, hormonal, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I do stand corrected, and I totally agree. Depression is not a choice; it's a condition for sure. I wanted to share just my um, experience with depression. Well, I always get depressed, but it happens. But I'm able to recognize it quickly and work with tools that I have to nip that in the bud and get myself out of that. And I'm very grateful and fortunate. I have a tribe and tools and things, and just the ability to know like, okay, I'm slipping down that slide. But I had gone to therapy in my 20s, like my mid 20s, when I was just tired of, being down. I knew I was depressed, and one of the tools that I picked up in this particular series of therapy sessions was they'd asked me when was the first time I remember feeling this way, like with certain ideations, and it took me back to a time when I was about 8 years old. And what I had gone through when I was 8 years old was neglect from a parent. And we were living out of state. We had moved out of my original home state. And it was just she and I, my mother and I, and she was working. And, I would be home a lot. I was a latchkey kid, but I would be home a lot all by myself. And the pattern was, don't let anyone in the house, and your friends can come over, because that was her way of dealing with my safety, right? But obviously that was just like child neglect. But I mean, she fed me and everything. It wasn't that type of abuse, but it was a neglect type of abuse. But when I thought about it, I remembered the feeling that I was feeling in my mid 20s at that point. I realized, like, oh, I was going through like really severe depression at age 8. And when I really thought about it, that depression had started at age 7 before we had even moved out of state. Because before we had even moved out of state, I was still getting left home a lot, latchkey kid, no siblings. Don't let anyone in the house. Don't answer the phone. Don't do this. You know, keep yourself safe, right? I'm left to my own devices as a 7-year-old to protect myself and take care of myself at home alone when that shouldn't be happening, right? So all that to say, like, the condition of my life at that time, it set the tone for depression to onset right in my body, because my whatever was going on chemically in my mind, I'm trying to protect and take care of myself as a young child. So depression onset on me. So I was able to realize, like, oh, that's crazy. Like, it just happens. Like all of you all were saying, like, you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't even know it's happening to you. But I remember the patterns of sleeping all day, missing school, purposely skipping school, feeling afraid, having particular ideations, not wanting to be here anymore at that young of an age. And those are things you don't have control over. But if you're I like to pray for people's fortune to be able to work through that and fight through that. So I definitely would say, like, it's definitely not a choice, it's conditional. It's a condition that falls upon you. And, you know, I love that we're talking about this, and I want people to share stories. And I definitely say, like, have a tribe, be tapped in with your tribe, whoever that is, a therapist, a group of friends, a family member that you can trust with those type of things, or someone, you know, like sometimes you just need someone to stay at the house just to check on you, or hey friend, call me every Monday. But I definitely just wanted to like share that that was my first experience with depression. And so I think because it happened so young, and I always kind of went up and down, and I had like really strong coping mechanisms. Obviously, I coped with it. I would like watch TV all night and stay up all night, and I would call my dad, my other parent. He didn't live in state with us, so there were a lot of things conditionally that protected me, and I know that that was definitely God too, because those ideations, that's no joke, and you don't want to get there. And you know, I've had people in my life that got there, and you know, they succeeded. So I can definitely say that, like, it's no fun, um and there's nothing you can do about it coming into your life. But if you can have awareness, like, please, like, talk about it, share it, get help, do whatever you need to do to just like hold on and figure it out. So that's all I wanted to leave with. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stella. Yeah. You can say something, Jay. Go for it.
No, I was just saying thank you, Estella, for sharing. I don't know if we're wrapping this up or not right now, but thank you, Kojo, for having this discussion with me. I know I asked you for it because I was triggered by that lie. It was more of the chaos that was triggering me.
It's very crazy live.
But I know I just put some heavy stuff on all of you tonight. I appreciate you guys all for being here. I generally don't unload on people unless I know they can handle it. So I appreciate you all for staying with us through the live right now, and allowing me to just get some of this off of me, because it is helping me right now. I've been holding a whole lot in lately. And my last bout was triggered because I was in a state like one of the other people in the chat of like missing my GMOMs and a couple of other things that was just going on. So don't worry, I'm actively been doing things to change the situation. It is a battle. It is not always a continuous thing. I do want a lot of people to understand that depression is not always ongoing and just this smooth running thing for some people. Sometimes it comes and then it'll go away for years. And then it'll come back. And sometimes it'll stay and sometimes it'll go away immediately or whatever. And so because this is something that I have been going through since childhood, I have learned how to kind of conquer it a lot of times, but there are times that life just seems overwhelming, you know? And so if you are like me out there and sometimes you just don't want to be alone because the thoughts in your head is just too much. They don't turn off. They don't turn off. Okay. Surround yourself by people. Like, I really love that this platform was created and I found my way to it. It must be God that made me do it because I usually wasn't even on YouTube. So I appreciate Kojo again for this platform. I appreciate my core four that we call ourselves, Seaway and Sean, for having all our little after hour talks and all this stuff that we go through. I appreciate you all in the chat for keeping me on my up in my A game or whatever, because me being petty makes me very happy. So I appreciate y'all when y'all come at me. Because y'all give me that feeling that I need. I'd be like, oh, they got me. Yeah, let's go today. So I appreciate you guys for being here on a regular listening to this. And you know what? I appreciate Fatty for having his live and his panel and them having a discussion. And I appreciate Anton for coming in with the divisive part of it, because I know that I don't actually really feel that brother believes what he was saying a lot of times, but I appreciate him for having that stance for this conversation to even keep going and to come here today. And I appreciate you ladies, Linda, you for sharing, Estella for sharing, Nicole for being here, Seaway especially for sharing her side of it. I appreciate you all, and just much love to you all.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you. I don't know if Linda and Nikki has any last thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
My last thought would be to check on your strong friends. Because, like Jay was saying, most of the time we just go through the motions, like, like you're not conscious of anything. You're just going through your day by day. And, a lot of the time, nobody knows what you're dealing with. The people that are strong all the time, the people that, appear to be happy and upbeat all the time, like, you gotta just tap them and just be like, hey, are you okay? Just to trigger them to be like, oh, then they'll break down like, no, I'm not okay. So just, check on your strong folks and your folks that seem like they're happy all the time.
Yes, I agree with you, B. I actually have a video on my YouTube about that exact same thing. The go-to person is what I called it. Because, everybody normally goes to a certain individual, but then that individual that is always the person that gives, they don't have time to refuel themselves. So they're kind of depleted, at the end of the day, or whatever's going on with their life. They don't really have no one checking on them. So it becomes to be a little unfortunate, but definitely I would say, in closing, for my last thought is to just, to be open. Mental health is everybody's thing. We all have mental health. It's called mental health. It's not mental. One person having it. Everybody has mental health. Some people deal with parts of it differently than others. You understand? A lot of times in the community, our community, the way I was raised, I'm speaking about my grandmother again because she raised me. My grandmother raised me. She would always say, pray, pray, pray. And that's what I would do. But I would like, Grandma, something is still going on. Like, I need to talk to somebody because, listen, God is hearing me, but he got somebody else working for him too. So I would say definitely pray, and I would say always, reach out, use your resources. If you feel as though, you don't have the resources, try and talk to somebody that can possibly give resources, because they are there. And if you can't move, if you can't walk, you can't talk, you can't do anything, you do have to pray. Just get on your knees and pray. And prayer does not always mean words. Prayer can be a feeling. You can just sit in God's presence. I don't want to get too spiritual on you guys, but you can literally just sit there and God can hear your heart. He knows what you're going through, even when you have no words to say. And so, if you have to cry, cry, but certainly do that, because sometimes you cannot move. You can't go anywhere. You can't talk to anybody. You can't go outside and take a walk. You can't do anything. You can't shower. You can't do anything. People think that it's just is one of those things that, it's not that big of a deal, some people think, but that's what I would say. If you can't do anything, just literally, get on your knees and just sit there, and don't, if you can't find the words, just let God talk to you, to your heart.
Thank you, Nikki Nicole. Audience members, thank you so much for joining us on this late conversation as well. It was a really good conversation to have, and I enjoyed the different perspectives and the different thoughts that were brought to the table. Sometimes these topics can be very difficult and very painful, and they're very close to people as well. So we understand that sometimes having this conversation is one that can help enlighten people, but also it can help as well just to free people too, because sometimes we just need to be able to talk about things that we are all going through, or some of us are going through, and there's a community of people that are, you're not alone in a sense, right? So thank you for everybody who's in the chat as well, who shared their point of view as well. You help with the conversation, you help with the healing too, and we appreciate you guys joining us today. So we'll see you again hopefully tomorrow night. And we'll have another topic to go on. I have something lined up, so hopefully it will complete, and we'll let you know in the next few hours. But much love, much appreciation, and Jay, thank you so much for sharing your heart, friend to friend. You know what I mean? And I know it's never easy to share what you've been through, and thank you for taking the lead. Because I know some people will not find it easy to lead in that space, to tell their story. But when someone does, it frees a lot of people. So that level of courageousness is needed, not only on this platform, but in real life with people. So thank you for sharing your heart and your experience as well. Gave me a bit more insight as well to look at people and see beyond just the surface as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes we smile, but like you guys said, beneath the smile, I love you, babe. Yeah. Appreciate you.
I love you,
Don't
twin.
do it.
No, you love you, twin. I know you're trying to make me cry, so that's why we're gonna smile right now, okay? We ain't gonna end like this, damn it. We're gonna end with a laugh.
Don't do it.
We're gonna end with a laugh. We're gonna end with a laugh. Good times.
We're gonna laugh. I appreciate it. All right, audience, we're gonna go.
I just wanted to say one last.
Oh, let's do it. Go for it. Yep.
Thank you for bringing me up to. Like, I've been following you for like a long time in your chats a lot, and watching you guys. I really appreciate what you bring. You always bring good conversations. Intelligent, intellectual. So thank you for just being you and being here on YouTube, Kojo. I really love and appreciate you, and you too, Jay. And sending virtual hugs to you, Jay. And I'll see you guys in the next chat.
Yes. Appreciate it, Linda. Ooh. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to pop off. We're going to go. Much love, much appreciation. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's not much I wouldn't do. So